In 1964, the USS Enterprise moved through the ocean like a steel nation unto itself. She was the CVN-65, nuclear-powered, immense, and restless upon the deep. Her decks carried aircraft, sailors, officers, machinery, fuel, weapons, hope, fear, and the burden of American power in a tense and dangerous world. At her head stood Commanding Officer Christopher Pike, a steady and burdened United States Navy captain whose life had become duty, discipline, and restraint. Pike was not a man given to softness, but weariness had begun to settle into him. He had recently lost people on a mission. Men under his command had gone where he ordered them to go, and some of them had not come back. That truth followed him through the passageways of the Enterprise. It stood beside him on the bridge. It waited for him in his quarters. Every order he gave now seemed to carry the echo of the men he had already sent into danger. He had commanded long enough to understand that command was not glory. It was decision.
It was consequence.
It was the terrible privilege of choosing who risked their life next. And Christopher Pike was beginning to wonder whether he still wanted that burden. The Enterprise continued across the water beneath his command, its engine steady, its crew alert, its mission still unfolding across the horizon. Then came the signal. It was a distress call from Cuba. At first, the message seemed impossible. It was connected to an old United States ship, the SS Columbia, a merchant tanker that had disappeared years earlier while carrying valuable cargo through dangerous waters. By 1964, the Columbia was remembered less as a ship than as a mystery. She had vanished, leaving behind only wreckage, unanswered questions, and the assumed death of every soul aboard her. The dead did not send distress signals. Pike listened to the report with a grave expression. His officers watched him, waiting for a decision. He did not answer quickly. There were traps in the world, and Cuba was no ordinary place. It was a place of revolution, isolation, propaganda, intelligence, and hostility toward the United States. A distress signal from there, tied to a vanished American ship, could not be taken lightly. But there was another possibility: survivors. If anyone from the Columbia had somehow lived, if even one American was still alive after all those years, Pike could not turn away. Whatever doubts he carried about command, whatever pain followed him from the last mission, duty still had its voice. He ordered the Enterprise to investigate. On the soil of Cuba, Pike and his landing party found what appeared to be the impossible: American survivors. They were peaceful, composed, and strangely at ease. They spoke as if the years had been kind to them. They lived as though disaster had not truly broken them. Their world seemed almost too calm, too complete, too perfectly arranged. Among them was a beautiful woman named Vina. She was the daughter of the unnamed, experienced captain and master of the SS Columbia, a man from Beaumont, Texas, who had been lost with every crewman when the tanker disappeared. Vina said she had been born shortly after the crash. She seemed drawn to Pike almost immediately, watching him with a mixture of hope, longing, and quiet purpose. Pike felt the pull of the place, but he also felt the wrongness. The survivors were too peaceful, too perfect, too much like people placed carefully upon a stage. The smiles were convincing, the words were human, the surroundings believable, but something beneath it all did not settle right in him. Pike had spent too much of his life reading danger in silence. He knew when a situation had been arranged for him. Then he realized the truth too late. The American survivors were not what they seemed. Cuba was ruled by revolutionary authorities with formidable intelligence and propaganda abilities. They had learned to craft staged realities, so convincing that a person could not easily separate truth from performance. They did not need crude tricks when they could build a world around a man's senses, his memories, his hopes, and his fears. Pike was captured. He was taken underground and placed inside a cage. It was not merely a cell. It was something worse. It had the feeling of an enclosure built for observation, as if he were no longer a naval officer but an animal in a zoo. The space around him was meant to humiliate as much as contain. He could be watched, studied, pressured, and displayed. The Cubans studied him.
They did not treat him exactly as a guest.
They did not treat him exactly as an ordinary prisoner either. To them, Commanding Officer Christopher Pike was an American naval subject, valuable because of what he represented and what he might reveal under pressure. He was command.
He was discipline.
He was American strength under strain, and they wanted to know how that strength could be bent. The Cuban revolutionary authorities had their reasons. Years earlier, Cuba had been reshaped by upheaval, isolation, and conflict with the United States. That history had forced its leaders into a hardened, defensive posture. Over time, they had become more dependent on intelligence operations, propaganda, and political control than on ordinary cooperation or rebuilding. Now they looked at strong Americans like Pike as assets. They believed men like him could be studied, pressured, and exploited. If they could learn how to control such men, they could strengthen and preserve their struggling revolutionary state. Pike was not merely a captive. He was a possible tool, a model, a resource. They began their work. To weaken his resistance, they surrounded him with staged realities and psychological pressure. One moment, he faced frightening scenarios meant to strike at instinct and fear. Another moment, he was tempted with patriotic appeals twisted into strange forms. Then came personal appeals, carefully shaped scenes, and propaganda so polished that it blurred the line between honest memory and controlled performance. Vina appeared again and again. Sometimes she was the sympathetic American survivor, the woman who understood him, the woman who seemed to need him. Sometimes she became a figure meant to draw him into cooperation. Her role shifted with the scene, always reflecting some new attempt to reach inside Pike and find the place where duty, loneliness, attraction, guilt, and fatigue met. The Cuban authorities tested him through her. They tested him through fear. They tested him through desire. They tested him through loyalty. They built scenes around him, each one designed to discover the pressure point that would make Christopher Pike submit. But Pike refused to accept the cage. Even when the illusions felt real, he fought back in the only way left to him. He fought with suspicion. He fought with anger. He fought with disciplined defiance. He watched every detail. He questioned every scene. He trusted nothing that came too easily. The Cuban revolutionary authorities could study him through interrogation, surveillance, and psychological pressure. They could observe his reactions. They could provoke memories and measure responses. But they could not fully command the raw force inside him. His anger made him harder to predict. His suspicion made him harder to lead. His patriotic defiance made him harder to break. The more he resisted, the weaker their staged realities became. Their power depended on his acceptance. If Pike believed the performance, they had him. If he allowed comfort to replace truth, the cage would become a home. But he would not allow it. His refusal became his weapon. While Pike endured underground, the Enterprise did not abandon him. Commander Spock, the commander of Carrier Air Wing 6 aboard the nuclear-powered Enterprise during Operation Sea Orbit, applied his logical, disciplined, investigative mind to the Cuba incident. He served under Pike and understood the seriousness of what had happened. He was not a man ruled by panic. He studied the situation, measured the danger, and searched for a way through. Number 1, Pike's executive officer, remained cool and disciplined. She was his trusted second-in-command, and she understood both the command structure of the Enterprise and the personal stakes of Pike's capture. She would not easily be deceived, and she would not quietly accept the loss of her captain. Yeoman Colt, Pike's personal yeoman, was young but capable, serving as a liaison between pilots, mechanics, and command during the Enterprise's early nuclear-era operations. She, too, became part of the unfolding crisis. The crew tried to break through the Cubans' control, but the Cuban revolutionary authorities were too powerful in their own territory. Their intelligence network, their control of the situation, and their ability to shape what the Americans saw and understood made rescue nearly impossible. Eventually, the Cubans brought Number 1 and Yeoman Colt into the cage. They presented them as possible partners for Pike. The insult was unmistakable. They were offering him a choice of women, as if he were livestock, as if command, dignity, nation, loyalty, and humanity could be reduced to breeding, control, and compliance. Pike saw clearly then what the Cuban revolutionary authorities truly wanted. They did not merely want him to cooperate. They wanted to reduce him. They wanted Americans brought low enough to live inside a pleasant prison and call it life. That was when the Americans made their stand. Pike and Number 1 showed the Cubans what they had failed to understand. Americans would not live as controlled animals. Not for comfort, not for beauty, not for safety, not even for a paradise built to soothe every wound. A prison did not stop being a prison because the walls were painted with pleasant lies. A cage did not become freedom because the captor offered peace inside it. Pike and Number 1 made it clear that they would rather die than become slaves in a beautiful illusion. The Cuban revolutionary authorities finally understood. Their plan would not work. They had believed Pike could be studied, pressured, tempted, and turned into an instrument of their revolutionary state. They had believed strong Americans might be exploited if the right illusion were built around them. But Pike and the others were too independent, too stubborn, and too dangerous to become obedient tools. So the Cubans released them. But before Pike left, he learned the truth about Vina. She really had survived the SS Columbia disaster. That part had not been a lie. But survival had not spared her. She had been left badly broken by the ordeal. The Cuban revolutionary authorities had kept her alive, but they could not truly restore her to the life she had lost. They could not understand what her survival had cost her. They could preserve breath, appearance, and performance, but they could not give back the world that had been taken from her. The strong, useful American survivor woman Pike had seen was partly a staged image. She had been shaped by propaganda and psychological theater. The reality was far sadder. Vina was damaged, dependent, and unable to return normally to the American world outside Cuba's control. The woman Pike had seen was not entirely false, but neither was she the whole truth. She existed between what had happened to her and what the Cuban authorities allowed her to appear to be. Pike offered to take her with him. It was the right thing to offer.
It was the human thing.
He could not leave without giving her the choice. But Vina chose to stay. In Cuba, the illusion gave her beauty. It gave her health. It gave her a life she could never have elsewhere. Outside, in the hard light of reality, she would be broken, displaced, and unable to live normally. Inside the controlled world of comforting lies, she could remain whole enough to endure. The Cuban revolutionary authorities allowed her to remain there. They preserved the illusion around her, and they preserved a staged image of Pike beside her, so she would not feel abandoned. Pike returned to the Enterprise changed. He had entered Cuba carrying doubt about command, pain, and the burden of sending others into danger. He had seen a paradise that was really a prison. He had seen comfort used as a weapon, beauty used as a chain, and illusion offered in place of freedom. He had also been reminded of something he could not afford to forget. Reality hurt, command hurt, duty hurt, loss hurt. But pain and freedom was still better than comfort without it. The Enterprise moved away from Cuba, her engines steady beneath the command of Christopher Pike. The island receded behind them, carrying its secrets, its illusions, and the wounded woman who had chosen to remain inside them. Ahead lay the open ocean. The horizon waited, and the USS Enterprise continued on.